To quote Bjork, declare independence. Today on this bonus episode of BV Weekly, I'm joined by BV music writer Bill Pearis to discuss his favorite independent albums of 2026 so far list, and one just released album that probably didn't make any mid-year lists, but is sure to appear on many end-of-year ones. What's up, Bill?
Not much, Dave. How are you? How was your July 4th weekend?
It was pretty good. I watched the fireworks from Jersey City in a really tall high-rise that a friend just moved into, and that was actually amazing. I could see all three Macy's barges at once. How about you?
I was suffering from the heat a little bit this weekend, so I somehow fell asleep on my couch and slept through the entire fireworks thing. But
yeah, then not. Well, actually, for Brooklyn, that's impressive considering your apartment must be a little soundproof.
Well, I mean, you could hear it. It wasn't like I couldn't hear it. I just sort of slept through it. And there's also what we call local fireworks.
Exactly. I think it was louder. It was louder. I was pretty close, relatively speaking, to all three barges of the big New York City fireworks show. But I think it was louder in my apartment after I got home after midnight in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
it's the local fireworks. Although maybe because I got home so late, but the local fireworks seemed less this year. Yeah, maybe because I'm just used to like the 10 p.m. to midnight local fireworks that I missed.
Right.
I don't know.
How was the heat wave for you?
Not too bad. I mean, my AC was working. We know they kept getting the texts about your voltage has been reduced to save power because of the heat wave and stuff. But yeah, it looked like you actually had some crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, I live in Williamsburg and North Brooklyn. The population here has probably tripled in the last 20 years, but I feel like the power grid is probably still the same one that they had in the 70s or 80s. And everywhere was super taxed. It was basically a brownout for 12 hours on Friday. Half the restaurants in this neighborhood closed, and there were fires coming out of manholes all over the place from like blown out transformers. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I don't think I had anything that eventful happening. In my weekend. Hopefully it wasn't those fumes that put you to sleep during the fireworks.
Well, unsure.
I also have been watching a lot of TV at your and Stephen King's suggestion. I was already watching Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed on Apple TV after finishing the very great Widow's Bay.
Yeah.
And now at your suggestion, I've started watching 2015 show Patriot on Amazon, which stars John Locke from Lost and Rickon from Severance, pre-Severance.
That's right. And the main guy, whose name I cannot remember, he is also on For All Mankind, which is an Apple TV alternate history space race show.
Okay, I've not seen that one. But is that good?
The first couple seasons are good, and then I sort of stopped watching.
Okay. Well, it looks like Patriot only lasted for 2 seasons?
That's right. I think it was made by this guy, Stephen Conrad, who's gone on to make a few other things, including the recent HBO miniseries DTF St. Louis. And he's extremely quirky, as I'm sure you've gathered from making your way through the first season of Patriot. And the show is just so oddball and unique that it was too weird to last, and that it got 2 great seasons that ends in a very satisfying way. I feel like it's a gift,
It really does. I had never really heard of it except for you always recommending it to me. And it really, I also wasn't watching as much TV back then, so I wasn't up necessarily always on the latest shows, but it does feel like a kind of a missing piece of the puzzle. I mean, it's literally got John Locke from Lost. I don't know if it's really, I don't know if you would compare it to Lost, but you can't help but feel like you're staring at, even though it's been so long since I saw John Locke. He's like one person I was like, why do I know him? Oh my God, yeah. And but then it's really kind of this like Barry meets The Americans meets
like a Wes Anderson movie almost or something.
Yeah. And I didn't realize it was going to be so funny. I didn't know if I was watching a completely serious show when I hit play, to be honest.
It is an unusual tone that has funny moments and serious moments and surreal moments. And there's definitely no other show like it before or since. And I don't think very many people watched it when it was first out on Amazon. And I think people are still discovering it. I have friends like you who recently have said, I discovered this show Patriot and it's amazing. And so that's a good recommendation for this summer.
I haven't finished. I'm like 6 episodes in, I think, already. So it starts off, you definitely got to like keep going past episode 1 and 2 if it's a little off-putting at first. And by episode 6, it's like, oh, this is some of the best TV. So happy I'm watching this. I can't speak for how it ends yet. But I think the only other show I'm watching right now in real time is House of the Dragon, which I can't resist. I got to watch everything Game of Thrones. And but it's like much better this season, I got to say.
Okay. Like I've said, I watched about 2 episodes of when it aired and then I stopped, and I feel like I'm too lost to get back into it unless I go back and watch the whole thing, and I don't really have a desire to do that.
That's how I feel about this season of The Bear. I dropped out after season 2 and I'm just like,
I don't blame you, but the final 2 episodes are really good. Final 3 episodes are really good.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Yes.
This is a bonus episode of BV Weekly. Andrew is obviously not here, but on Friday's episode of BV Weekly, Andrew and myself ran through our collective Brooklyn Vegan best albums of 2026 so far list, and which is live up on BrooklynVegan.com, which you contribute to as well. But
that's
also,
true.
As mentioned many times, you also have your weekly Indie Basement column. And in that column, at least twice a year, you also publish your own personal list. Personal list, go ahead.
That's right. Yeah. I definitely have different tastes than the rest of you. And, some stuff makes it in there, but there's a lot of other stuff that I want to talk about and prop up and hype. And so, Indie Basement does its own favorite albums of the year list. We usually at least the half year mark and at the end of the year.
Yeah. And so you can go read that full list now, along with our regular mid-year lists, both on Brooklyn Vegan. But today brought you on to talk about it. But before we get to that, there's one album that you reviewed on Friday that has just been like filling my Twitter feed, basically. And that's Nirosta Steel album called My Skyscraper.
That's right.
You even say in Indie Basement that you only learned about the album hours before writing the review as a disclaimer. And that's what it feels like on Twitter, because it's just people are comparing the hype immediately to the Los Tutanaka hype, which happened out of nowhere when Pitchfork gave it a really high score, but then even more when Pitchfork made it the #1 album of last year. And
Pitchfork has not reviewed this yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah, I'm thinking at least a 9. People are comparing the hype of this album, this instant hype, to what happened with the Cindy Lee album and what happened with the Los Tutanaka album. It's kind of got that mystery that it's also because of who is hyping it. It's the same crew of a lot of people that date back to being Tiny Mixtapes reviewers and people in the orbit of new Pitchfork editor-in-chief Mano. And then those are the 2 albums I mentioned. Both got some of the highest Pitchfork scores in history. Both topped their end of year list. Both became stories, because even now when it's rarer for a Pitchfork score to contribute to discourse in a meaningful way, those were both that were proved if you score it high enough and put it high up enough and no one heard of it, you can get a lot of people talking. And so that's Nirosta Steel. That's spelled Nirosta Steel. And this is not the person's real name. I'm going to read the Nirosta Steel's My Skyscraper Bandcamp description, the first paragraph, because I think it really helps put some context into this immediately. My skyscraper represents 40 years or so of works, reworks, and works forever in progress of one Stephen Hall, aka Nirosta Steel, son of Scotland, stepson of the United States of America, adapted daddy of Taiwan, 5-star general in the Buddhist army, legendary horn dog stickman. We have pics, friend, neighbor, collaborator, and co-conspirator of Arthur Russell. Super key detail there. And one of the most jaw-droppingly sincere songwriting voices you'll hear in this wretched modern era. Sure, that's a metric fuck ton of descriptors for a single person, but it's sort of impossible to capture the full scope of this human being named Stephen Hall. And I'm just going to give one more name drop that's been floating around, which is not only did he work closely and was very close with Arthur Russell, but also, it was Allen Ginsberg who introduced them in 1980. Oh, yeah. One of the things that adds to kind of the mystery and mystique and story to this album is that Nirosta Steel, a.k.a. Stephen Hall, just turned 69 right as the album was coming out.
I heard about it from our coworker Amanda, I think, pasted in a tweet from Pitchfork editor Jeremy Larson, and I tend to like what he likes. So I checked it out, and I like Arthur Russell, and I was just immediately like, oh, this is cool. And that was on Thursday probably, and I was finishing up my Indie Basement column for the week already, and I was like, oh, I need to put this in here. And so I listened to that while I was writing it and doing other things, and by the time I finished the review, I was pretty hooked on this.
I edited your review, and I was definitely super happy you managed to get that in there. I was like, oh, nice one. Because by then I realized this was like all over the place. And, but I hadn't listened to it yet. But since then, actually, that's another thing I did this 4th of July weekend. I'm about my 5 listens into this album. And I went in like, I was hesitant. I was like, yeah, I'm almost turned off by this instant hype a little bit, but no, I love it actually. So I'm on board.
And I should say 5 times listening is twice as long as listening to almost any other record because it's 83 minutes long.
Oh yeah, exactly. Sometimes I'm doing it while playing Fortnite. So that makes it a little easier.
It was only released last Monday, and Monday's, not a normal day that records come out. And so I think it caught everybody off guard, and I don't know exactly where it started, but yeah, by the end of the week, I was sort of pulled into it. And I think if you are a fan of Arthur Russell, it's definitely very much in that same world. There's some disco and dance music, but also some folk type stuff. All of it is very spare, minimal sounding, and there's just I don't think it's a proper album that Stephen Hall delivered the label. I think he sent a bunch of like CDRs and they picked a bunch of stuff. I'm not 100% sure. So I have a little bit of trouble like calling it an album because it's from so much time. A lot of it's from the 80s and 90s, but then there's more after that.
Well, in this really good interview that's up at Tone Glow, and Tone Glow also being one of the main Twitter hypers, that he just did this interview. It's like brand new. It just went up. I think he mentions one of the songs was made like last year. So,
oh, wow.
It's the full range of 40 years, I think, but go on.
There are a couple songs that he co-wrote with Arthur Russell. There's one song that supposedly was written for Madonna, but never used. There's a lot, there's these 2 big, like long sort of jams that almost feel like they're the same song, but done in different ways with different lyrics and different melodies. It like starts with the same, almost exact same guitar chord.
And Arthur Russell also plays on the album.
Right.
Yeah. Key point as well. He plays drums on the 2 like 10-minute each tracks, right?
Right. That's the one. Yeah. Those are the ones I was saying that almost sound like they're 2 sides of the same coin.
Yeah. And I think that's like side C of the double vinyl.
Mm-hmm. I feel like listening to the vinyl of this record might be easier just because it's 4 sides and you can just sort of concentrate on one and re-listen to that if you want and flip it over. But obviously it's on streaming and you can you can listen to it, any way you want. But yeah, I was instantly like, oh wow, this is really great. And I've listened to it not quite as much as you this weekend, but I've listened to it more than once, more than twice, and it's definitely gonna, stick with me for the rest of the year, I think.
It's, some people, I love the whole album. I think there's one song where he's faking this falsetto.
Oh, it's really weird falsetto.
Yeah, I love that, actually. I've seen some comments, people saying some songs are so annoying, and I assume they mean that one, but that's one of my favorites, actually.
And it comes early in the album, too.
Yeah, it's like it's a test if you can't make it past that. But I forget song names, but there's at least a couple on here that I feel like are some of my favorites. There's dancey stuff that I can imagine you putting into some of your DJ mixes.
Right. Yeah, there's at least a couple really cool disco songs that you could imagine being played at that legendary New York party, The Loft, that happens like twice a year, and you have to be invited to go. And it feels like that sort of secret New York almost in some ways.
Well, what's so kind of cool about this is, Nirosta Steel, or if you want to call him by his real name, Stephen Hall, he lived that life. So he was at countless legendary clubs, and not just in the USA either. As said, he moved to the US when he was like 15. He immediately got immersed in this subculture. Like I said, hanging out with Allen Ginsberg when he was super young. He was read the Tone Glow interview. He's had an extremely colorful life. And I think part of what's so interesting about this story is how a lot of people are like, I never even heard of this guy. He was so close with Arthur Russell. He did so much. He also did a band after Arthur passed away. He was part of the band called Arthur's Landing, that they would perform some of Arthur's music or music they wrote together. And at least one of the songs that Arthur co-wrote, I think, was part of Arthur's Landing that's on this album.
Right.
His story is super fascinating. And the fact that he's done so much, and he's like this vibrant, crazy sounding person. And then people are just realizing he exists from this album. That's like I said earlier, at the very beginning of this episode, I think this is going to be one of those albums that shows up. Even though you don't consider it a new album, I think it's going to be considered a new album in the context of everybody's end of year list this year.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, none of these songs have seen the light of day before that I know of. And he didn't really start to release Nirosta Steel anything until the early 2010s. So it's amazing that all this amazing music has been just sitting around like on CDRs or laptops or reel-to-reels or, and just never heard before.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think he said so you know where Bill, the old club, the Fillmore East here in Manhattan, in New York City, in the East Village on, Avenue A or First Ave or Second Ave. It's that white bank building that hosted the Grateful Dead and then after that closed, that became a gay dance club and called, I'm forgetting the name, but somebody is making a documentary about that club. And I think they asked Nirosta Steel to contribute a song to it. I think I learned this in the interview, and it was something to do with him giving the song to that he then was like, I don't know if that led to him doing this whole album or if maybe that was just about one of the songs on the album. But to your point about these songs have never seen the light of day, I think that's mostly true, but there are some different mixes. And I think that was implied also in the Bandcamp bio, that like a lot of these songs have been evolving over the years, and that there's different versions that have appeared, maybe not publicly or what, but at least a different version of one of the songs on this album is going to be in that documentary. Is partially where I'm going with that. And then, I don't think most of these songs were released, or hardly any of them, like you said.
I definitely had never heard his name before, and I own a few Arthur Russell records, and I can't say I'm immersed in that whole scene. But unlike the Cindy Lee record, where I was already familiar with Cindy Lee, this definitely just dropped out of nowhere, and I understand everybody that is praising it. It's a really cool record, and I feel like there's something on here for everybody, even if it's all within one kind of sonic world.
For sure. And before we move on to the mid-year list, which we should definitely do, I'm going to quickly correct myself by reading the little bit of the interview from Tone Glow related to what I just said. There are songs from Cool Fire, and they're from the early 80s. And then one of those songs, First Love, I recorded last year. The guy who did the music video, Ian Lewandowski, liked my work, and we met before. He's now doing a documentary about the Saint nightclub, that was the name, which used to be the old Fillmore East in the 80s. He wanted to use a couple of my songs for that documentary, and First Love was one of the songs he liked. And then for fun, I did a disco version of it by accident. I was working on a different disco song, and I was trying to find some beat, and I just sung over that song for practice, and it ended up fitting into that song. There's also a Latin version of that song I never used. Anyway, he goes on, so you get some history there. So go read that, Tone Glow, shout out, and listen to the Nirosta Steel album. Let's talk your favorite albums of 2026 as seen in Indie Basement on Brooklyn Vegan. How are we going to do this?
Well, I did do a end of quarter one list back at the end of March, and we talked about that on a bonus episode of the show. And so I'm not going to include any of the 10 records that we talked about there, which included Ulrika Spacek, Buck Meek, Memorials, Station Model Violence, Bill Callahan, New Pornographers, BB Club, Landy Hecht, Cardinals, and Exec. So I picked what I think are probably 10 others that are I'll say this too. My Q1 list was 20 albums. My half-year list was 30 albums. Some things that were on the half-year list fell off. There was at least one thing I think that I didn't review the week it came out, and I later added it. So this is a little bit different. So I picked another 10 records that are like near the top for me. I didn't rank them as specifically as I did last time. And on the Indie Basement mid-year list, it's all alphabetical. So in this case here, listeners of BV Weekly are getting to hear a little bit more of a ranked.
Okay, I think I know what you just said, but yeah,
I'm not sure either.
But here's your home. So you're saying this is going to be a little ranked right now?
A little ranked, but it's not. Some of the records that I talked about last time are still in the top 10. So these are 10 that I didn't talk about the last time that are probably all new to the second quarter.
And that we didn't talk about last week either.
Right.
Or not even a week ago.
Well, I think there's one that you and Andrew talked about.
Okay. Well, here's your homework. If you haven't yet listened to Friday's episode where we talk about our bigger mid-year list, go listen to that. If you haven't yet listened to our bonus episode from months ago where Bill talked about his Q1 favorite albums, go listen to that. And also, if you haven't read the full list or do this after this episode, go read Bill's full list on BrooklynVegan.com. All right, let's talk about the 10 ranked minus X, Y, and Z albums of Indie Basement of 2026 so far. What's your first pick?
All right, we'll just get the one out of the way that you and Andrew talked about last week, and that's Beth Orton's The Ground Above.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's as I wrote in the review, it really feels like a continuation of her 2022 album, Whether Alive. She uses a lot of the same players that she used on that one, including Shahzad Ismaili, Portishead's Adrian Utley, Tom Skinner, who plays in The Smile, her husband, Sam Amadon, and a bunch of other really cool people. She's not really doing the like folk with beats thing that she was known for her first couple records, but there's still a lot of electronics on this record, but it's more spacey, sound designy. It sort of swirls around you. This is a really great headphone record. It's a really good Like if you've got like a decent stereo with nice speakers to turn it up loud, it sounds really great. Her songwriting fits her voice now, which has gotten a little more, she's aged into her voice, and it's a little more fragile and weathered sounding, and the music really sort of reflects that. And yeah, if you like stuff like the final two Talk Talk records, it sort of reminds me of that. But there's also like really great songs on this. It's a really wonderful record.
I back that opinion, and I even talked about it more on the last episode. So let's just go straight into number 2.
All right. We have Aldous Harding's Train on the Island. Sometimes records don't make an impression when you're listening more casually, like if you've just got it on your laptop and you're doing other stuff and you're not paying that attention. This record, which is Aldous Harding's 5th album, really benefits from a little closer listening. Now, sort of like Beth Orton, she made this with very much the same crew of people that she's made her last couple, including producer John Parrish, H. Hawkline, and other people. But this doesn't feel like those last 2 records. This was really understated, and she varies her singing style on this one. She uses a lot of different vocal styles, and if you do listen on headphones or you're just sort of not doing a million other things, you hear layers sort of blossom and bloom that you may not have noticed on the first one. And the songs are really fantastic, and her lyrics are fascinating and weird, and there's really nobody else like Aldous Harding, even if at first she seems like a lot of other people. She's a truly unique talent, and I still think Designer is my favorite of her albums, but this is a close second. Yeah, Train on the Island.
I still need to do that close listen on this one. And this is also one that we didn't talk about last episode, but did make our main list. And also, a lot of times, I mean this in the nicest way, Bill has albums that don't appear on many other lists, on his list. This is one that appears on. You are in agreement with the consensus on this one.
Right.
It's appearing. Yeah. It's a big one this year. Okay.
Next on my list is one that is not controversial, but it is divisive.
Nice reference there.
And that would be Boards of Canada's new one, Inferno. And it's the first album in 13 years from this enigmatic Scottish sibling duo. I don't know what people expect. Boards of Canada, all of their albums are very much in a similar sonic world. It sounds like nostalgic, and all the synthesizers are sort of detuned, and there's weird vocal samples, whether it's from Sesame Street or some religious documentary, and it's still very much in what Boards of Canada do, but this one's a little heavier, a little darker. It feels very much of our current times. It feels bleak at times. It's a little scary. The single from the album ended up getting used in the closing credits of Backrooms, the hit horror film that came out earlier this year. And I think
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And the movie and this album came out the exact same day. And this was one of those records where it was only announced like 3 weeks before it came out. So I don't know if the person who made Backrooms was a fan and like talked to them and they offered, I don't know how it happened, but it seems like very perfect for those two things to have happened at the same time. It's another long one. It's 70 minutes, but if you can get yourself into their headspace, I really think it's a terrific record. It's a good walking around the city kind of record, especially at night. It's just a little creepy, but not super creepy. And as far as not sounding that different. In some ways, I treat Boards of Canada like a comet. They don't come around that often, so I'm always glad when they hit our solar system. So definitely worth a shot if you were put off by some people love it, some people don't. I think it's great.
Yeah, and I think most of that divisiveness was on Twitter. Sometimes it seemed not even real. Like, are these people trolling? And it was working because, at some point before our feeds were filled with people arguing about Nirosta Steel, they were arguing about Boards of Canada. And of course, there's been 20 discourses in between. But we actually just saw The Quietest put live their list, and they are known for very snobby opinions. I mean that also in a nice way. And
they're more obscure than I am.
They're more obscure than you are, sure. Although sometimes they have, they've got a lot Olivia Rodrigo on there. You'll never see Olivia Rodrigo on Indie Basement, but
who knows?
It could happen. But they do have Boards Canada pretty high. I took note of that but so do a lot of critics. It did.
Yeah.
It did get a few. I think The Guardian kind of trashed it. Interestingly, but
yeah. But
I think, a big disappointment. The guy's headline says on The Guardian.
I feel like if you ever went to an ATP or bought records at Other Music, you're gonna like this record, and you probably already have it.
Oh yeah. No, we're 100% team. It's good. It's just interesting that there's like this other opinion on this one, at least.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got at number 4?
Or whatever number this is. It's a band called Slippers, and the album is called Slippers 08. And Slippers is basically one person, Madeline Babuka Black, who used to live in New York and played in a bunch of bands here, including she was in that band Beverly. And she moved to LA, and she's in a band called Le Pan, and also puts out music on her own as Slippers. And I think she plays almost every instrument on the record, and it's very winsome, jangly indie pop. And like the Landy Hecht record that came out from this year, winsome sometimes can be like a backhanded compliment, but she is winsome in all the right ways. A lot of this record reminds me of early Cardigans, when they were like jazzy and jangly with la-la choruses. I think every song on this album is an earworm. This is very up my alley as far as indie pop. It's just a little twee, but not too twee. You can tell that like she's an amazing musician, great songwriter, got a great voice. It's just a really cool record. If you have any interest in that sort of jangly side of things, if you like Always or The Best, this is a record worth checking out.
All right, cool. That was Slippers with Slippers 08. Is there an 07?
I don't think so. No, there's another record apart from this one, at least one more, but I don't remember what it's called.
What did she do in Beverly?
Maybe she played bass.
Okay. I often think of Beverly as like a person.
Right. Well, yeah, Drew Citron.
Right.
And actually, I'm blanking on his name now.
Remind me what other band Drew Citron was in?
Well, she spent a little bit of time in Pains of Being Pure at Heart.
Oh, yeah.
And she was in like a backup singer in some sort of synth pop R&B band. And I don't remember what they were called.
Right.
And I'm not sure what Drew's doing now. Beverly has always been basically her. And
was the synth pop band Avon Lava?
Yes.
And then she was in Public Practice. That's what I was also thinking.
That's right. Yeah, she was in Public Practice, and I don't know if Public Practice exists anymore or not. They were a really good band that sort of, I think, were a casualty of COVID.
Right.
So Madeline was in one of the lineups of Beverly, just, either on bass or guitar, or maybe drums. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, she moved to LA and is thriving in the indie scene there. And she's also an animator, and her music videos use animation. It's really cool. So highly recommend checking out Slippers.
Frankie Rose was also in the original lineup of Beverly.
That's right.
Frankie Rose, who had previously been in
Vivian Girls,
Crystal Stilts, and Dum Dum Girls. Yeah.
Yep.
And is still playing solo, Frankie Rose. She just she just played the Slide Away Festival, right?
Yep. And
With
she's got a new album that was just announced a couple weeks ago, and she toured with the Jesus and Mary Chain. And actually, the current drummer from Jesus and Mary Chain, his name is Justin, I can't remember his last name, but he was the drummer in Elastica, the original drummer in Elastica. He plays on Frankie Rose's album, the new one. Yeah.
All right. I think I've done enough 6 degrees of separation from Slippers.
We're way too many tangents here.
All right. No, but I think it's good context for how Indie Basement has been tracking the New York City scene for so long, and all these, when I see you talking about Slippers and it relates to Beverly, I'm like, this is kind of a web that Indie Basement specializes in and stays on top of. All right.
Yeah. Though I will say, I think when I first heard Slippers, I didn't realize that she had ever been in Beverly. I just liked it on its own.
Fair. And I was definitely not implying there was anything but honesty going on there.
Right.
All right.
What's
up next?
Weird Nightmare, their second album, Hoopla. Weird Nightmare is Alex Edkins, who used to sing and scream and play guitar in Toronto band Mets, who broke up a couple years ago. And Mets were a very loud band, and so is Weird Nightmare, but they're more on the punky power pop side of things instead of the amphetamine, reptile, Jesus lizard, noise punk side of things. If you like the Beatles, if you like the Buzzcocks, Cheap Trick, Teenage Fan Club, the Pixies, you're going to find a lot to love on this second album from them called Hoopla. It started as a solo project, but it's now a real band. They played a couple weeks ago at Union Pool here in Brooklyn. I didn't go see that show, but I caught them on Record Store Day at Rockefeller Center. They have like a free festival, and they played there, and I saw them there, and they were great. And yeah, if you like just 70s, 60s sort of power pop, but played in a punky, loud way, this record's really great.
All right, nice. So that was Weird Nightmare with Hoopla, and what do we got next?
All right. We have Iceage, For the Love of Grace and the Hereafter. This is I think it's the 6th album from this Danish band. I have always liked them, but they never really clicked for me until they released Seek Shelter a few years ago, which was produced by Sonic Boom and brought in some like Manchester elements to their sound. And this record similarly like lets in a little sunshine, whereas I feel like their first three records or so were kind of bleak and relentless. And the sunshine like does them good. They've got a few pop singles on this record, like Star, which might be their best ever single song. And it's another one on there called No Fear that I really like. They keep their edge and the swagger, but they just bring a little more melody and friendliness to it. And I think it's their best album yet, even if this is the first one that didn't get Best New Music from Pitchfork.
Right. They were one of those bands. Of course, the Pitchfork regime is a little different now, but
yeah, I think it still got a very good review. It didn't get Best New Music.
Yeah, Iceage, I don't think they've toured yet on this album, but they have 4 shows coming up in the United States in August at interesting venues. They're playing August 1st and 2nd at the Ukrainian National Home here in New York City. Mm-hmm. How big is that place?
I'm not sure. I think, we were speaking of the loft parties that were originally hosted by this guy, David Mancuso. I think that's the same place where those happen.
Oh, wow. They're both sold out.
No surprise. They're pretty small.
And then after a few days, they head to LA, where they are playing the Masonic Lodge at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, August 6th and 7th. Well, it says at Hollywood Forever. That means the cemetery, right?
Right.
Yeah. So those are kind of cool venues. And yeah, then it's just back to Europe for them after that.
I don't think that if you disliked them before, these last couple records are going to change your mind. But if you were on the fence or just never got super into them, these could change your mind.
Okay, that's Iceage with For Love of Grace and the Hereafter. What do you got next?
Okay, we have the self-titled solo debut from Hannah Lew, and that's Lew. And Hannah has been in a few San Francisco bands over the last 15 years, including Grass Widow and Cold Beat, who I liked. And actually, to bring it more around to people, she was in a punk band called Shitstorm that had Frankie Rose on drums.
I didn't even know that, but I was already ready to try to connect this back to Slippers. So thank you. You're already on
it. Grass Widow were more sort of indie rock type stuff. And then with Cold Beat, she went sort of post-punk synth pop type things. And her solo album is a continuation of Cold Beat, really. It's very synth pop in a early 80s kind of way. Not so much post-punk on this one. This is all very pretty and ethereal, and it reminds me of like if synth pop was in a lush garden, that's what this would sound like. Her voice, her melodies, and her harmonies are really what make this record special. I've been a big fan of hers since the Grass Widow days, and this record is another fantastic underheard album, and you should definitely go check out Hannah Lew's self-titled debut album. It's really great.
It looks like Drew Citron, Frankie Rose, and Hannah Lew all played New York City Pop Fest 2015.
That sounds right.
And they're all making great music 11 years later. So let's, on that note, that was Hannah Lew with self-titled. Mm-hmm. What do you got next?
Next up, we have Irish rap trio Kneecap with their album Fenian. And, so much controversy has swirled around Kneecap since Coachella 2005.
You're allowed to use that word in this one, yes.
Controversy. No doubt that they have just been in a shitstorm of controversy since Coachella, and then Glastonbury, and Mo Farah got arrested on terrorism charges, which later got dropped, but it's been nonstop. And you'd be forgiven for forgetting that they actually make music, but they do. And this album is really good. I wasn't crazy about their debut studio album, Fine Art, but this time it feels like they poured all that anger and what they were fighting against, whether it was Keir Starmer or Sharon Osbourne or whoever, all of that got funneled into this record, and it's fiery and fantastic. They worked with Dan Carey, who's worked with Fontaines DC, Wet Leg, and many, many others, and it's really loaded with just, it's a lot of bangers. You can tell that they like 90s techno and acid house and drum and bass, and there's a lot of that on this record. Just a lot of fun, high energy to listen to. It's all in Irish for the most part. They throw in a little bit of English here and there. I'm not 100% sure what they sing about, but you get the feeling just from listening to it. There are some cool guests on this record. Kay Tempest is on here, and Palestinian rapper Fozzy. Like I said, who knows if they'll ever get to play America again, but the record is worth hearing. It's a fun party record that'll get you fired up.
Right. It's crazy to think. I remember telling people they needed to watch the Kneecap documentary when it was.
You mean the biopic?
The biopic, right? Because they're actually in it. the biopic that they, right, it's a biopic, but is there a different term for a biopic when you're also in it?
Well, I don't think so. It is, I would say it's probably loosely based on their actual story of how they came to be, but with some added dramatic elements to it. So in that way, it's kind of like 8 Mile.
Right.
It's a biopic, but they play themselves.
Yeah, and so that was early on, relatively speaking. Now, like I remember telling people, you got to watch this about this band, but that was like back before they were like, you, to quote you, controversial. So it's almost like,
or controversial in a different way.
Now they need a new documentary is basically where I'm going with this. It almost like feels like you're not getting the full story if you tell someone. It's still a good movie that probably stands on its own, but you would be missing a lot of newer chapters.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an actual documentary that's been made over the last year from all the stuff that's happened to the new record, but we'll see. But yeah, the Kneecap movie, which is just called Kneecap, is on Netflix now, and it's terrific. It's a lot of fun. It's funny, and if you've never quite got what Kneecap were really about, this goes a long way to explaining a lot of stuff, and you see how that leads into where they are now with all the stuff about Palestine and many other things.
All right, what do you got next?
Here's another one that has shown up on a lot of lists, and that's the self-titled debut from my new band Believe, and it's one of the offshoots of Black Midi, a band that I never really liked that much, but I've enjoyed the various members' solo projects. First, we had Jordy Greep's wild solo record from a couple years ago, and now here's Cameron Picton, who is my new band Believe, and it's couldn't be further from what Jordy's doing. Acoustic guitar forward, sort of Baroque folk pop with some touches of 80s sophistopop and 70s British prog. It was produced by Jasper Llewellyn and Mike O'Malley from Caroline, and if you like Caroline or are familiar with them, it's very much in that sort of pastoral world. I'm not sure that there's an actual band with my new band Believe besides Cameron. The people who played on the record do not play live with them. In fact, it's pretty much a pickup band in every city he goes to, at least when he toured America earlier this year. I'm pretty sure every single city had its own pickup band.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Including here, when I saw him at Public Records, Riley Walker was in the band.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, he finds good people in everywhere he goes. But yeah, it's this sort of malleable type thing that's less a band and more like a project. And when this record came out, he actually released a single on the same day that wasn't on the album. And I actually like that more than the album. It's called Numerology, and it's a little more in that 80s sophistopop world, a little more of like Style Council or something like that. And I have a feeling that he's probably already got another record in the can and will be out sooner than later. And it could be completely different than this one. He's definitely somebody that I am very much looking forward to seeing to where he goes next.
All right, now I'm playing the 6 Degrees of Separation thing. You just mentioned that the Kneecap record was produced by Dan Carey. He worked on it, yeah. And Dan Carey made his name for himself in recent years thanks to working with bands like Black Midi. And
oh, that's right.
And my new band Believe, member of Black Midi. There we go.
Yeah,
all right.
I think some of those, the earliest Black Midi records were out on Dan's Speedy Wonderground label, even though they ended up, I think, getting signed to Rough Trade or something.
Right. Along with like Black Country New Road and Squid, that whole scene now known as the windmill scene, the creation of the windmill scene. Yeah. So yeah, now was that Dan Carey's first time working with Kneecap? Yeah, I think so. It's also like his only album this year so far, I think, Dan Carey.
No, there's he worked on that Hot Face record, which was on my list from my Q1 list.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure he's got a few things.
That makes more sense.
He's a very busy producer.
Yeah, I was looking probably an outdated list of credits here, but Dan also worked on the new Wet Leg album. That was last year, but
right.
Yeah. All right. So that was my new band, Believe. And I don't know what number we're at anymore.
We're coming into what I guess are the top 2 of these 10.
Oh, top. So we've been going like 10 to. Your 2 favorites are still out of this list. Correct. Still to come. Got it.
Right.
Okay.
They aren't necessarily my number 1 and 2 of the year, but of not counting the records that I talked about in the last episode, they're the highest ranked.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I'm following along.
Here we have Robber with 2 Wheels Move the Soul. This is definitely one of my favorite records of the year, and it's the second album from this Burlington, Vermont indie rock band. They fit within indie rock, but I don't know. They don't really fit easily into any box. On this album, there are elements of electronica, like 90s electronica, The Prodigy. There's noisy Sonic Youth drone punk, and all of it is put together in a way that feels fresh and new. Their drummer, Zach James, is amazing. I've seen him live a couple times, including they played our showcase at the New Colossus Festival in, what was that, 2024?
Yeah, I guess so.
2025?
All the way back. Yeah, more. Yeah, I think maybe even 2024. You might be right.
Yeah. He's amazing. And this singer-guitarist, Nina Cates, she just brings this effortless cool. The songs are great and unusual. They make this brand of indie rock, which probably leans a little post-punk. They're bringing something new to it, and the songs are great. The production's great. And this record, 2 Wheels Move the Soul, will definitely be in my top 10, if not my top 5 by the end of the year.
Yeah, this album finally sold me on the band. Back then, 2024, I wasn't fully sold on this band, and I knew you loved them, but wasn't hitting me the same. And then I still gave this new record a chance, and I was like, oh, all right, now I'm on board.
Okay, and that just leaves this last one, which last time I said the Ulrika Spacek album, Expo, was my favorite record of the year so far, and it was. Of things that hadn't come out yet, but I had heard this record already, and it's in a neck and neck race for my favorite record of the year that has been released so far, and that's Lee Scratch Perry and Mouse on Mars's album Spatial No Problem. Lee Scratch Perry, a dub and reggae icon, died in 2021, and there have been a number of posthumous records released since his death. He's a little bit like Tupac in that way, in that he has just recorded so much stuff with so many different people, and a lot of that stuff still hasn't seen the light of day. This was recorded with Mouse on Mars over a 4-day session in 2019. And then COVID hit, and then Lee Perry died in 2021, and they sort of sat on it and finally decided to finish it. And I think it's genuinely a masterpiece. Jan St. Werner and Andy Toma, they're thought of as an electronic band, but they brought in so many musicians to play on this, and it's got a very organic feel to it. Real percussion, brass, flutes, backup singers, strings. It's really cool. Lee Scratch Perry's only instruction to Mouse on Mars was that he didn't want to make a reggae record. There are dub elements here, but it's really different. And I think I was on talking about the single when it came out at some point, and I sort of compared it to what was coming out of Compass Point Studios in the Bahamas in the early 80s, like, the Tom Tom Club and Grace Jones records, stuff like that. It's playful, it's danceable, it's really unique in Lee Scratch Perry's catalog. And I probably listened to it, I don't know, 50 or 60 times since it came out. I was home visiting my parents for a month, and I also like drove to Big Ears Festival and back, and that was basically my soundtrack for like that whole time. And it's a really cool record. And I think that, well, there's definitely one more Lee Scratch Perry record to come out. Adrian Sherwood, who's worked with Lee Scratch Perry a few times, says he's got another one that's may come out this year or next, but I can't imagine a more fitting tribute to the creative genius and eccentricness of Lee Scratch Perry than this. And
if you are just learning about Lee Scratch Perry, you've got a few hundred albums to go back and listen to before this one as well. We've been doing Brooklyn Vegan over 20 years. I have memories through the years of various Lee Scratch Perry shows in that time frame alone. And, you know, how old was he when he passed away? He was
81 or 82.
Yeah, 81. Right. And he was still going, he was 85 actually.
Oh, okay.
So his age was like always a thing.
I saw him in maybe 2019 at Brooklyn Bowl, and he was still like a whirling dervish on stage. And if you think Lauryn Hill goes on late, you haven't seen a Lee Scratch Perry show.
Legend. And it's great that we're still hearing amazing material.
This record is truly like next level. I interviewed Sonic Boom and Panda Bear on the podcast that I host currently, BV Interviews, and we were talking about like new records, and Sonic Boom was like, that it's one of my favorite records of the year. Like Mouse on Mars, like really knocked it out of the park, the production. It's a really, really cool sounding record and unusual for Lee Scratch Perry, and just, it's one of my favorite albums of the year.
Well, thank you, because that was an amazing segue, because that Panda Bear and Sonic Boom interview is out now on the BV Interviews podcast. So we are done here. You can go listen to that. Yeah. And again, go check out the full Indie Basement list of 30 albums to find out what else is on that list on BrooklynVegan.com, and our main mid-year list of 50 favorite albums of 2026 so far. Listen to Andrew and I talk about that main list on our previous episode of BV Weekly, and stay tuned for yet another episode of BV Weekly coming this Friday. Bill, always great to have you here. Thank you.
Dave, thanks so much.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Dave and I will be back every Friday morning with new episodes of BV Weekly. And in between the episodes, you can always get much more from us at BrooklynVegan.com, on all of our social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can pick up records from us at shop.brooklynvegan.com. And if you like what you hear, tell your friends about us, subscribe to the show, give us a good rating. All that little stuff goes a really long way. It really helps us a lot, and we really appreciate it. So until then, thank you again, and see you next time.